Welcome to the You Don't Know What You Don't Know podcast by Innovative Business Advisors. Successful business owners who have started, grown, and led businesses share their journey and direction for the benefit of those traveling the same path.
So welcome to the You Don't Know What You Don't Know podcast. This is where we engage in conversations with successful business owners to learn the little things that make the journey of building their companies special. Today, we're honored to have John Matthews with us. John is the founder and president of Gray Cat Enterprises. Gray Cat is a Raleigh, North Carolina-based management consulting company, and John specializes in strategic project management and consulting for multi-unit operations, primarily in the retail space. He also does interim executive management and strategic planning for companies. He's got over 30 years of experience in this space with senior level executive experience. I will let our listeners know here, John was the president of Jimmy John's Gourmet Sandwiches. So probably everybody in North America is very familiar and in love with Jimmy John's. John led that company as president for many years and has also been with a couple of other major retail organizations. So, John, we're excited to have you this morning. The one thing we know for sure is that retail is not going to go away with AI. People still love to get out and shop, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? You got to have your ducks in a row as a retailer before you can even use the tools of AI. And I think it's kind of like the shiny penny right now. Everyone wants to chase it. But if you don't have good customer service and you're not taking care of your operations, it's one thing to use all these tools to get people to come in and then they realize that you're out of stock. That doesn't really help you. So you got to make sure you've got your operations in place, your marketing in place, good customer service, and AI should just be considered an additive tool to your toolbox.
Well, you've developed some pretty amazing stuff, and you've got an unparalleled track record of growth within the retail space. Tell us a little bit more about what makes your business special and different than others within your space.
Well, I do have a unique background. I was very fortunate in my corporate days to be with 3 high growth companies. I started with Little Caesars, and when I tell this story, Steve, that when I started, we had 1,300 stores, and 5 years later, we had 5,000 stores. And if you think about the growth there, I went from a manager trainee in the store, learning how to make pizzas, to 5 years later, I was the national marketing director, and I had 1,600 stores. So it was clearly the mailroom to, a guy that, is flying to 35 different markets throughout the country. And so, when you do the math, we opened up literally a store and a half a day. I mean, that's that type of growth. And so that experience combined with when I went over to the convenience store chain, Clark Retail Enterprises, we had 800 stores. We quickly went to 1,400 stores through acquisition. And then at Jimmy John's, when I was there, we doubled the size of the company. You get used to knowing that what you're doing today has to change 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road for you to be able to manage that type of growth. And one of the things that makes me unique is I actually get hired by private equity companies to work with some of their high growth companies and work with their CEOs. And I give them a peek around the corner. Like, you know what? You're at 10 locations today. At 50 locations, these are the issues that are going to start to pop up, and you need to start thinking about how we're going to address those today, and so on and so forth. So I guess I bring a unique perspective because I was fortunate enough to be involved in those companies that had high growth track records.
And the problems are completely different when you go from 10 locations to 50 locations, as you talked about. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is especially like in franchise organizations where the franchisor is trying to grow. And one of the ways they grow is they get franchisees to give them a franchise fee. And, maybe they're based in Michigan, but this guy wants to open up stores in Arizona and another guy wants to open up stores in Montana. And you're kind of going, we got to take this money because this is going to help fuel our growth. But then when the dust settles, you realize you got, 47 stores in 19 different states, and you can't manage your distribution, you can't manage your operations, you have no brand presence from a marketing standpoint because you're everywhere and nowhere. And so it's those are the challenges that I try to at least coach some of the CEOs that I work with to say there's growth and there's smart growth, and we want to focus in on smart growth.
When you talk about smart growth, so one of the things I'm hearing there is, do you build out a market first before you then jump to other markets, or is there a secret formula that you put in play there?
Yeah, it's the contiguous model is the preferred model because you got to think about it from a distribution standpoint. At Jimmy John's, when I first joined there, we had 13 different distributors throughout the United States. And Jimmy wanted to introduce Jimmy chips, which is a proprietary Jimmy chip, which is a great idea. The problem is that in our Illinois locations, where we had a number of stores, we could get those chips for we could get those chips for 30 cents, maybe. I'm making these numbers up. But the guy in Utah was paying 70 cents for the same chip. And then he only had a couple of locations, and the minimum order was a truckload. Well, by the time he got a truckload in at double the price, he couldn't sell enough chips to get rid of it before they expired. And so those are the growth and scaling challenges that you face, not to mention that we had one operations guy have to fly specifically to Utah to go look at his 2 locations. And so there's cost and expense and time of one of our operational staff that has to do it, as opposed to the guy in Illinois who could drive around in an hour and probably see a dozen stores.
Well, in your own business and Gray Cat Enterprises, what are you most proud of these days? How would you share that with our audience, and tell us a little bit about how you made that happen?
Probably the thing that makes me most proud, Steve, is that I've been doing this for 21 plus years and still alive and still thriving and still kicking. And it's the longest section on my resume, if you want to think about it, as far as tenure. It's exciting to me that I've been able to maintain it. And I tell the story that when I first started, I was 2 months into it. I sat down with one of my former colleagues who had branched out on his own, and he said, "John, I've been doing this for 26 months. And I remember hearing that going, I want to do this for at least 26 months. And now it's been 20 plus years that I've been doing it. And I've been very proud of that. And the thing that has really helped me along the way is, I hate to say it, but LinkedIn has really helped. I get so much business from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, for me, back when I joined it in 2005, broke down the geographic barriers to doing business. I was based in Chicago at the time. All of my clients were Chicago based. And then I was introduced to LinkedIn. And then all of a sudden, I could have clients in Iowa, and I could have clients in Arizona and whatever, because I had access to those folks. I know people listening to this today are probably laughing, kind of going, really, you couldn't cross the state lines? But back then, prior to having that type of mechanism to do it, it was difficult to make inroads into a different state. There wasn't a way to communicate to folks saying that I could be a credible resource for you. LinkedIn has been a godsend for me. And I'd say 90% of all my business in the last 10 years has come through either someone on LinkedIn that has read my blogs that I post out there, or connections that I have that they refer me to someone else, and so on and so forth.
And you've got a lot of material. You've got 3 books out there as well on your specialty. Yeah. So, and great material. I've been through some of it, and I highly recommend it. So people should go find you on LinkedIn, connect with you, and get the benefit of reading your blogs and materials, because there's some real gold in there.
Yeah, and that, to answer your question earlier, one of the things I did when I first started the company is I was always kind of a pack rat when it came to all of the materials that were sent to me when I was leading these divisions and everything like that. And I literally went into my laptop and jotted down all of the things that I thought people might be interested in hearing about. We did an acquisition. Okay, so how do you do an acquisition? What's involved in an acquisition? We started key performance indicators. Okay, what is a key performance indicator? So I jotted all these things down, and probably had, I don't know, a couple of hundred ideas to write blogs on. And over the course of time, I've done exactly that. I've written a blog on each of these subjects and I post it out on my website and on LinkedIn. Not only to educate other folks out there, but it does add credibility to what I do. And when people reach out to me after 5 years and they say, I've been reading your stuff every week on LinkedIn for 5 years, I'll be damned if I don't have a project for you now, John. That makes me feel like, you know what, maybe that's been worth it. Some folks are getting some value out of it, and now they actually have something that I can gain some value as well.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you deliver a tremendous amount of value in the materials that are available out there. So, if somebody is got a couple of locations now and they're dreaming of being a fast growing multi-unit operator, are there particular bases that they got to touch and they got to do really well in order to be successful as they make that jump?
Yeah, one of the things that I put together a couple of years ago was the Gray Cat Learning Series, and it's on my website. So if you go to my website, graycatenterprises.com, there's 15 online courses there. And there's a handful that are for operations. There's a handful for marketing. There's some self-improvement ones and so on and so forth. I kind of wrote those with the guy that has 1 or 2 locations in mind, because one, they're not going to hire me for a big project. They don't have
they don't need
the
you
need
yet,
for
right?
They don't need me yet. But there's someone out there that's kind of going, I don't even look at my profit and loss statement. My accountant gives it to me every month. Is there a way that I can improve myself in my daily business? And there's a 45-minute course that I walk through a profit and loss statement, giving examples of how you can easily extract $20, $50, $100 every month out of your profit and loss statement and things like that. Or I don't know how to market my location. What are some ideas? There's a local store marketing course. So that's where I would start. Make sure you got the basics. Make sure you understand your business through key performance indicators. Make sure you're managing your expenses. So dissecting your profit and loss statement. Make sure you're putting your self out there. It's one thing just to open the store and unlock it every day. It's another thing to go out in your 2 or 3 mile radius around your store and try to prospect customers. So a local store marketing strategy, or maybe you just don't manage your time well. I've got a time management course that you could take. So to me, those are kind of the table stakes. Once you figure out all of those basics, then you can start thinking about, I want to do this social media. I want to do digital marketing. I want to do this AI thing and everything. But if you don't have the basics down, you're just going to spend money and you're not going to see any result, because someone's going to walk in and you're not going to have the product that they want, that type of thing. So get your basics down. And like I said, I have 15 of those courses on the Gray Cat Learning Series on my website if folks are interested in those.
Do you think that's the biggest failure of 1 to 2 store operators, that they just don't have all the basics covered well?
I think that, I don't know if it's the biggest failure, because there's a lot of things that they could probably be doing wrong and everything like that. But what I would say is, if you don't have the basics down, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. And even though I have been in charge of damn near $1 billion divisions and stuff like that in my corporate days, the very first thing that I did when I started Gray Cat is I sat down and I wrote a 23-page business plan for Gray Cat. How am I going to make Gray Cat stick around for a year or 10 years, now 20 plus years? Where am I going to get my revenue from? How am I going to control my expenses? What should I charge for my services based on industry, based on experience, based on whatever? How do I go out and get this business? So I came up with a marketing strategy. I put together a financial pro forma. I could tell you exactly where I was going to spend my time. There were 3 or 4 pillars that I was going to go after business. And today I'm basically doing all of those pillars still, with the exception of the interim executive management, which I've added in the last 10 years, where I actually go in and run divisions or run departments on an interim basis. that's something that's kind of popped up in the last 10 years that I've been doing it. But that was the very first thing I did. In the first 2 weeks of Gray Cat, I spent time to write a 23 business plan that I have over my shoulder, right over here, sitting on a work or a bookshelf. That would, to me, that was my basic table stakes that I had to do is how am I going to, what's my plan? What's my strategy?
It's so fascinating because we work with business owners all the time. And I can tell you, I think probably less than 10% of business owners do what you just described. Sit down and really think through what their business plan is. The one thing I love working with the SBA is the SBA requires that an owner do some of that work before they'll provide funding for them, which the exercise in and of itself is powerful, absolutely powerful. So, I think that's probably a strong indicator of your success as you were starting out. It gave you a roadmap, right? So and it gave you some guardrails as well, right? So all those things can be very, very helpful. What were some of the biggest challenges as you were growing your business, as you were first starting out? You said LinkedIn became your best friend at some point. People forget what it was like to live before the internet, right?
Exactly.
You and I have been around. We saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the biggest challenge is, people used to know me as the guy, as the VP of this and the CMO of that and the chief operating officer of this. And then all of a sudden I'm Gray Cat. I'm this guy. And they're like, who are you? What is this? What do you do? And so you have to check your ego at the door. And I know the first 2 or 3 years, a lot of my colleagues out there kept on saying, oh, he'll be back. He's just doing this. Like everyone gets into consulting and they'll be back to the corporate world. And I just had a different path. Even when I was interviewing at my corporate jobs, I used to tell the people I was interviewing with, my plan is, I am going to go out on my own. I'll do this for 5 or 6 years or whatever. But I am planning on going out on my own. So I did have that kind of embedded in my brain. But that was probably the biggest thing, is establishing some sort of credibility out there as a management and operational consultant. And then once I got a few projects under my belt and I had some case studies and I could show empirically that I've added value in certain situations, then it started to take a life of its own. Then I started to get people that would they'd bring the jigsaw puzzle pieces and throw them at me and say, here's our problem, you figure it out. And I would sit there and solve the problem. And so that's what kind of keeps me going today, is I'm a puzzle guy, and I enjoy kind of heading out into the abyss, so to speak, to tackle, various problems that folks will bring to me in various industries. I know you introduced me as kind of a retail guy, but I'm fairly industry agnostic now. I've been involved in technology and healthcare and B2B and a variety of different industries, and I still have some retail as well. So,
well, the basic building blocks of successful business are the same regardless of the industry, right? So, when you focus on those building blocks, it's easy to transfer those skills from industry to industry, I would think. And what's it like I imagine you're at the point now where you get to basically choose your work as well, right? So you've been established, you're well established, you've got great credibility, outstanding track record of performance behind you. You probably have the ability to say no now if the right opportunity comes, if the opportunity that comes your way is not the right opportunity.
Yeah, that is a nice feeling. It's also a nice feeling. Like I met a woman 17 years ago on LinkedIn. I sent out a random invite. She was a vice president at Sylvan Learning Centers. And we had a nice chat. I think this was in the fall 17 years ago. And I didn't hear from her for like 6 or 8 months. And then like in June, she reached out to me and she says, our guy just isn't working. I know we've never met in person. I liked our chat. I really don't have time to vet anyone else. Are you interested? I'll give you a project. And I said, sure. And Michelle and I have established this relationship and friendship that after she left Sylvan, she went over to a company called Deluxe. She brought me into Deluxe. I have been working with Deluxe. They're my longest running client right now. Michelle left Deluxe and went someplace else. I'm working for her in that other place. And Deluxe, because I had been there for so long and under her tutelage, so to speak, in introductions, I got to know so many people there that they've kept me on after she left 4 years ago. So I have established enough, credibility within that organization that they keep renewing my agreement. And Michelle and I continue to become great. We've known each other now for 17 years, and it's that type of relationship that I love working with her. She always gives me challenging projects. She's the one that's in the healthcare industry now, and so this is a new industry for me, and it's been exciting. And so it is kind of cool to be able to feel that enthusiasm over a particular project or people that you work with, and have the opportunity to pick and choose which folks you want to work with.
Yeah, it is. That is really cool, and it's nice to be able to kind of pick your tribe in that regard and work together with people that you really enjoy. As you think about the vision for your business in the future, right? A lot of people think and profess that we're kind of at this pivot point in history here in 2025, right? AI, the next big thing, kind of the internet of the next generation is coming in, and industries are changing substantially, right? There's a lot of interesting things on the horizon. What are some of the positive trends that you see that are happening that people should be kind of leaning into at this point?
From my perspective, the thing that's kind of interesting to me is I've been reached out to so much in the last 12 months by AI type of companies that know that they just can't throw a product out there without having the bones and structure to that particular product. So I've been reached out to help them basically write it down on paper first, so then they could have their AI gurus kind of convert the knowledge into a tool that actually can be used better in the marketplace. I still think, Steve, that for the next decade, there's going to be people like me that are going to provide the important insight on how things actually work out in the field and with organizations that are multi-unit, and the whole logistics and mechanisms of how things get done that can't simply be replaced with a tool, because without that inner knowledge of that, someone's going to create a tool that is going to be woefully unacceptable to the people that are actually trying to implement it. And they're going to get more frustrated by it because they're not taking into account all of the items that have to be considered in order for this tool to replace the existing functionality. And I do think that folks like me are going to be able to provide that working knowledge. And I can tell you this already because I've got a handful of meetings set up in the next month on exactly this subject, that people want to pick my brain to make sure that they're covering off all the bases before they go out and try to design a new tool.
It is fascinating too. I think my personal view on AI is that it is the wide collection of knowledge for an old guy like me. It's like the Encyclopedia Britannica has got every subject and every viewpoint ever written on that subject at my fingertips, right? But the strategy of management by walking around, or what I call leadership by being out with the troops, that piece is never going away. AI can never take that away. And it seems that in the post-COVID world, there's a lot of that's missing. We kind of hit this pause button during COVID, and customer service and the basic blocking and tackling of how you run your business is different now than it was before, right? And it's right. I think the companies that get that right, you see, are really thriving in the marketplace, and the ones that don't just seem to kind of muddle along.
Well, I'll give you an example of a tool I told you I get 95% of my business through LinkedIn. I really know how to work LinkedIn. I have a huge network. I put a lot of original content out there. I get a lot of people that contact me through that. And then I have colleagues that are on LinkedIn that get nothing. They get bupkis. They don't put anything out there. They don't connect with people they don't know. They have small networks and everything like that. It's the same tool. But I did all the prep work in advance to optimize the tool, and other folks haven't done anything. And so take that to the AI example. If I'm going to use AI, I'm going to do all the prep work that's going to optimize an AI functionality far better than someone who says, oh, here's an AI tool that you can buy at Best Buy. I think I'm going to use it. And then they go, well, this sucks. I'm not getting any value out of it. It's because you didn't do any of the pre-work. The pre-work, it's kind of like getting back to the business plan. The reason why Gray Cat is alive today, and I will stand on my grave saying it, is because I wrote that 23-page business plan on the first 2 weeks of my endeavor.
Yeah, it makes all the difference in the world, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance, right?
There you go.
It all begins there. Your business model, I think you're right. I think there's always going to be a call for your business model moving forward. Maybe even more call for the experts in the room that have got feet on the ground, hands-on experience. What do you see as some of for your business moving forward? What do you see as some of the challenges that may lie in your future that you may have to address in that regard?
There's only one of me. There's only so many hours that I can put towards this. And quite candidly, I'm not sure I want to work 100 hours a week. So I know that I'm going to pick and choose the projects that I want to work on and the folks that I want to work with. So I probably don't have as many challenges because I'm at I've been doing this for 20 years and I have done okay. And so I can kind of pick and choose. And so my biggest challenge is just how much time do I want to spend on it? Or would I rather go out and play golf on a Friday instead? I'm to that point where I'm okay not working, as many hours as I did 10 years ago. And, it's a good lifestyle. And one of the things that if I could tell the entrepreneurs out there is that, hopefully you're going to be financially successful in what you're doing. Hopefully you're going to be able to maybe work from home like I do. And I started my company when my kid was in 7th grade, and I never really missed a baseball game or a track meet because I worked from home and I could manage my schedule around that. And so I had a great lifestyle in addition to being, financially able to maintain this for 2 decades plus. So as an entrepreneur, I would highly tout the fact that it's not just about the dollars. You need the dollars to be able to maintain what you're doing, but it's also about your lifestyle. It gives you a chance to, if it's sunny outside and I don't have any pressing client stuff, maybe I go out and work in my gardens or go play golf. And then if it's raining on a Saturday, okay, maybe I'll knock out 3 hours worth of work. So it gives you that flexibility and that lifestyle. And it's to the point where I don't think I'll ever retire from it, Steve, because that would mean I would just shut it down to nothing. And I doubt that. I'm sure there's always going to be a 10-hour a month project out there that I'll want to do, and it'll be intriguing to me, and I'll just continue to do it. Or there could be a huge project that I just long to do it one more time, to go out and build something that's really big, and I just think it gives you a lot of flexibility and it gives you a great lifestyle.
Yeah, I look at Warren Buffett, right, into his 90s and doing what he loves every single day, and that's how I view my world as well. And it sounds like you're in the club, John. So great to be there. Listen,
well, there's Warren Buffett, and then there's us down here.
Well, remember, he didn't. His fortune was really created from the time he was 66 on. So
okay, well, there you go.
He had a lot of practice time up front. Well, listen, this has been great. How do people reach out to you? Obviously, LinkedIn. So you're on LinkedIn. You're very available there. again, talk about your website, your materials that you've got. How do people access your stuff?
Yeah, so if you do try to find me on LinkedIn, there's about 10,000 John Matthews out there. Put in John Matthews Gray Cat Enterprises and you'll find me, and it's GRAY or Cat Enterprises. My website is www.graycatenterprises.com. You can sign up to get alerts on the website. You can take a look at the Gray Cat Learning Series. You can look at testimonials. I'm also an industry speaker. So if you're looking for someone for your event or something like that, you'll see some clips of me speaking and a list of topics that I already have kind of in the can that I could apply to your event. And then if you want to email me, it's john.matthews@graycatenterprises.com.
Fantastic. Well, listen, John, thanks so much for giving our listeners a bucket of your time today. I appreciate it very much. You're making a difference out there, and just want to say, God bless you, man, and keep it up.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Don't Know What You Don't Know podcast. We invite you to visit www.youdon'tknowwhatyoudon'tknow.com and sign up to receive updates on upcoming episodes. You can also let us know if you'd like to be a guest or recommend a business owner to be interviewed. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, where you can like, follow, share, and join our efforts. Thanks for listening. We hope you join us again.